Attention musicians of all levels. It's not always easy picking out a song by ear. Sometimes you need a little help. Well, I have the app for you. Whether you're a professional musician or a beginner, Ultimate Guitar is an amazing app. For just $2.99, you get the chords and tabs on guitar, bass, or ukulele for over 1 million songs. They're all available at your fingertips. You also get tools like a tuner, metronome, chord library, lessons, videos, and more. You can find out any song you want. It also has like transpose button. It has auto scroll that you can change the speed to so you can play along with the song. A lot of the songs have the lyrics there so you can sing along with them. Ultimate Guitar is an amazing app. Just go to ultimateguitar.com or download the app to your phone today and start playing. Start playing any song you want. Ultimate Guitar, that's the place for you. Let's get down. Hey gang, we all know Spotify has become the ultimate app destination for music lovers. I have an account and I love it. I find new music by following Tastemaker playlists, and I make my own playlist that I share featuring music from guests that has been on the show. But did you know that aside from millions of songs, Spotify now has all of your favorite podcasts, including How Did I Get Here? Yes, all of your podcasts are available on Spotify. Just go to Spotify.com or download the app from your app store, and don't forget to follow How Did I Get Here? That's Spotify. Millions of songs, thousands of podcasts. Let's get down.
And you may ask yourself, well, how did I get here?
It's time for How Did I Get Here? And now here is your host,
All right. Hello, I'm Johnny. I'm your host. Welcome to the show. I hope you guys all had a good weekend, whatever it is you did this weekend. I had a good weekend. I was in the studio all weekend at the Bubble with Frenchie Smith and the band Pleasure Venom, who is one of Austin Music Foundation's Artist Development Program's class of 2021. We're so excited to have them, or class of 2022, I guess. That's when they get out. I can't really remember, but it's our 5th year of doing this, the 3rd year of making the record, and it was a really great weekend. They're an amazing band. I love them. I've had Audrey Campbell, their singer, on the show a few times. If you don't know them, look them up. Pleasure Venom, incredibly inventive Afro-punk art rock band. Fantastic band. Anyway, great weekend. Did a lot of things. Maybe this weekend you saw the Rock N Roll Hall of Fame, the 2021 Rock N Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony show on HBO. Well, I have a great guest for you guys. Kathy Valentine from the Go-Go's, who were inducted at the Rock N Roll Hall of Fame this year, who also had this fabulous documentary that came out about them earlier this year on Showtime. Fantastic documentary. Also, last year, she put out her memoir, All I Ever Wanted, a Rock and Roll Memoir. So she's had an incredible year and a half, and she's just been on microphones talking about stuff, doing Zoom interviews, doing all kinds of like book things. She was supposed to go on tour, but now the Go-Go's, since they're inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, they got a little resurgence going on. They're going to go back out on tour. You can find them online, find out when they're going. I know they're doing some shows next year with Billy Idol in England, at least, maybe all of Europe. I don't know. We talk about it, but man, what a year for Kathy Valentine and this memoir. So last year, Kathy and I are friends, and we've been playing together in different sort of incarnations, but mostly in this band that's like her band, the Blue Bonnets, but with me singing and playing like a lot of my songs. But we've been playing together since like 2007. I love her. We've become very good friends. And we got together like a week before quarantine, I want to say, and met up for lunch, and she gave me her book. And it was at the time when like it was like, oh, I need to sanitize my hands, but you weren't wearing masks and then things were still open. So it wasn't like totally out of control, but it was like the week before things went down in 2020, like maybe late February, early March 2020 is when we met up. And we were going to sit down and do the podcast. And we talked a few times during the pandemic and during the lockdown and planned to do it, but things came up and we weren't able to. And so finally, after all this time, and they got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this year. What an exciting thing. People have been, they're one of those bands that people are like, it's about time. Because you know what? The Go-Go's accomplished something. They accomplished something that there's never been an all-female band who wrote their own songs, played their own instruments, and had like a number one record for 6 weeks, right? And it's never been accomplished since they did it. How insane, man. It's insane out there. So anyway, the Go-Go's were recognized for their accomplishments. Kathy got to be the main spokesperson at the awards. She was the one that was allowed or asked to do the main speech during their induction. Sorry. She talks about that. And what an exciting thing. She talks all about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It was a very exciting thing for her. Also, since Kathy has put out this book, All I Ever Wanted, a Rock and Roll Memoir, I cannot recommend this book enough. It's amazing. It's amazingly well written. It draws you in. She's so honest, and it's such a powerful story of somebody really like in search of themselves and really like becoming the person they like. I've only known like sober Kathy since 2007. She has a family. She's got kids. She was married at the time. A normal person. She doesn't drink. She doesn't smoke, anything like that. But Kathy had a wild childhood. And she's very honest about it. And as far as like talking to her about the book and everything, she's done so many interviews about the book over the last year and a half. She's done so many interviews about the Go-Go's for the last year since the documentary came out, that I kind of wanted to find an angle that would be somewhat original about it. So we all know the story. I mean, Kathy had a rough childhood. You know, she was raped and had an abortion when she was 12, and she had a very rough upbringing, sort of had to bring herself up, and she really did. I actually get emotional about it in the conversation because you know this person, you care about them, and you can't believe all this horrible stuff happened to them as a kid, but then you see the person that they've become and how they've overcome all of these challenges. We talk a bit about that, but the angle that I wanted to take in this conversation was she actually wrote a song for each chapter and put out a record that goes along with the book. And it's absolutely fantastic. And it's something that she did like in her own studio on her own, doing all of the instruments except for on a couple of songs. So there's a playfulness. You can tell that she's really getting into it. And also being alone like that, she was able to be really vulnerable and very, very honest. And some of these songs, while they sound great and they've got a great riff and they're groovy and stuff, they're fucking intense, man. They are super, super, super intense. There's just a lot of intense songs on there. But the songs are really great. And so we go through and we talk about the songs, kind of how she made them and how she ended up writing them and putting them together. But I think that that's one of the things that not only Kathy's book is so well written, like she's such a great writer, that she is better than a lot of these other rock and roll memoirs that are coming out. Because there's a sea of rock and roll memoirs. So not only that, she made this record that goes along with it, which is a way for it to stand out. But Kathy's story is fascinating. It's harrowing. It's frightening. But ultimately, it's a story of human triumph and how somebody can really find themselves, shed the shit of their life, and get on with the stuff that's really good. Plus, so many stories about her adventures at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame a couple of weeks ago. Really, really fantastic conversation. It was great catching up with Kathy. Please get out there and check out her book, All I Ever Wanted, a Rock and Roll Memoir. You can find her at kathyvalentine.com. You can find the book wherever. Also, there's an audiobook, and she reads it. I got that as well. I actually read the book a couple times during quarantine and also listened to it once. So it was great. It's great having her tell her story to you. It's very exciting. Also, check out the record. It's available on Spotify or wherever it is you stream and download your music. All I Ever Wanted, a Rock and Roll Memoir. There's also the Go-Go's documentary, which is absolutely fantastic. And I'm so happy that the Go-Go's have had such a tumultuous like run, but they've managed to stay together. And that's kind of the moral of their story, the Go-Go's. Like no matter what they've faced, no matter what's happened, no matter how many times the question of publishing comes up, and they fight about it and they break up, no matter how many times they turn on one another and end up breaking up or throw somebody out, like in Kathy's case. They talk about that in the Go-Go's documentary. We talk about it in the conversation. But no matter what happens, they always come back, and there's this fundamental sisterhood. There's this love and a respect for what they've been able to do, what they've been able to achieve as a group Only they know that. Only they can go on and achieve, go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and be inducted as a group together that has achieved all of these great accolades and made it through so many difficult times. There's a lot to be said, man. The Go-Go's are an amazing band. They're one of my favorite bands. I love them. I have a connection to them. I knew Jane for many years, since the 90s. Her ex-husband, Jed, was my band's manager. Jane and me and Charlotte wrote songs together. Jane helped my band Gowdy out a lot. I used to stay with Jane when I'd go to California. And she was always a great host. She and Jed, they were always really nice. They took me around, introduced me to people. We met Angeline and stuff. So I have not only a love for the Go-Go's since I was a kid, but also a connection to them musically. So I was really proud to see them get inducted to the Hall of Fame. Plus, my connection to Kathy has been really, it's really meant a lot to me over the years. I have a great time playing music with her, have a great time hanging out with her, and I have a great time talking to her. So, without further ado, please enjoy my conversation with Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee, Kathy Valentine. Let's get down.
I don't have serious time. Our years apart are swept aside. I can tell you found your way home to your best self. Why couldn't I see you? We made it over and feel brand new. My fake bravado, your solitude. The hours spent together.
The original time we met, was that at the beginning of March when we got together at Torchy's and you gave me your book?
Did we get together at Torchy's?
Yeah, but I remember it was the beginning where we went to Torchy's and it was
2020?
empty. Yeah, and we were like, "Oh, make sure you sanitize your hands." But it was before you started wearing masks and before everything closed down. I feel like it was the week before.
Yeah, that's when my book came out. It was the last day of March, so I would have had some ahead of time. Yeah.
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 Yeah, and then you were like, "Oh, well, we got this documentary. Well, let's do it when the documentary comes out."
What, get together and talk?
do a podcast.
Yeah, it was going to be the book and then the documentary.
Yeah.
And then we were just, I don't know. I feel like have you had people besides me on as much as me?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm a repeat offender.
You're a repeat
here.
offender. Yeah. Regular.
But we do have things we haven't gone over that are big stuff.
Huge.
We did talk about my book, didn't we? Oh,
Not
no,
on
we
the show.
didn't?
No, we talked. When we talked about your book was at that thing that we did at Native Hostel.
Oh.
And you were writing it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But so much has happened since then. I guess let's cover the most pressing is congratulations.
Thank you.
That is amazing.
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
I watched some bootleg versions of the induction on YouTube.
Yeah, and it's the HBO version is tomorrow.
Saturday, yeah. It's tomorrow or Saturday?
Saturday, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm excited about that. Are you?
I'm going to go see the Stones on
Oh.
Saturday.
Okay.
So, I was there. I'll see it eventually, but, for all I know, they've, edited out stuff. I hope they don't. Hey, Rosie, you're licking my belly button.
What happens,
That is weird.
Rosie? Yeah, sorry. Rosie, come here. Rosie.
That is just weird,
She'll
Rosie.
chill out in a second.
Yeah.
She's got her. Okay, so this has been a long time coming, and there was one thing that I learned from the documentary was that you guys, number one, Rosie,
Boundaries.
Rosie, down, yeah. Hang on a second.
Oh, it's okay.
No, she just wants to be loved. She just lost her mom this week.
I like her. Can she sit in my lap? She's too big, right?
She wants to. She sat in my lap at my grandma's house the other day, and it was kind of weird. I don't know if that's the best
I'm
way.
used to like a little 10-pound dog.
I know. Are you? How is Tux?
He's good.
Yeah?
Yeah, he's hanging in there.
How old is he now?
He's 12.
Wow.
But he's like a little pup at heart.
Yeah. Those little dogs, they go for a while.
Yeah. He's got some issues, but so like heart murmur. Apparently it's common with little dogs.
All right. So how was everybody doing? Because it's been a tumultuous decade for the Go-Go's, and
Yeah.
that's been documented, so it's okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's one thing. Like, there
It's-
was a lot of the response to us getting in was like, "Oh, it's about time," and we even have a T-shirt that says "About effing time,"
Right,
you know,
right.
and I just keep thinking it's actually a really good time. You
Yeah.
know, if it had happened 10 years ago, and then like I got fired,
Right,
like that
right,
would just be
right.
weird.
Yeah.
So it seems like, and then I got back in. I don't know. It just feels like it happened at a really good time. A lot of the dysfunction and toxicity and issues and betrayals and hurt feelings and backstabby and all that kind of negative aspects, which I don't mean to make it sound like that's all there was. There's obviously, you couldn't subsist on just that. So there was obviously lots of really good times too. But most of the negative aspects of the band seem to have chilled out quite a bit. And I think it was a really good time to get this honor because I don't think anything else short of, you know, long old age shit is going to happen to us.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess not.
That's my nice way of saying dying and
Yeah.
getting sick. I don't think anything bad is left to happen.
Right. How, I just must be, it's been 4 decades. Like you joined the band on New Year's Eve or you played your first gig on New Year's Eve of 1980 to 1981, right?
Yeah, and you know what's weird? Like when I wrote my book, like I was so surprised to see like how things that I thought were months and months apart when I would do research and document my timeline and my sequence and my chronology, I was amazed at how short everything was. And I was reminded of that again today because Carla Olson, who I was in the text tones with, posted a photo saying this day in 1980, the text tones were playing in Lubbock. And I'm like, so I was still in the band at the end of November 1980, and by the end of December 1980, I was playing with the Go-Go's.
Right.
So I didn't, even with writing my book and doing all my research, I didn't realize that it had been such a small gap of me leaving the text tones, not knowing what I'm doing, and then
Right.
yeah, so that happened very quickly.
Yeah, because the way that it's laid out in the documentary and even in the book is that there was this period of time and you were like, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
But that was obviously just a couple weeks.
Yeah, apparently. I mean, I knew everything was more condensed when I was writing the book, but and I guess there's always the possibility that this was wrong. But anyway, yeah, no, I thought it was a little bit more than 6 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you were up there accepting, like all I can think is when I was watching those weird like side phone videos of the show and stuff is just what did it mean to like look over at everyone and in those moments, you know what I mean? That they kind of like.
Well, we went through a lot together in the couple of days leading up to it because there was times where it felt intimidating. There was times where I think we all at different times were worried about, you know, there was times where you feel like a little imposter syndrome, a little bit of, you know, and like when Carole King was being inducted, you know, Charlotte and I just looked at each other like, you know, what the fuck? What are we doing here with Carole King and Tina Turner?
Right.
And so I think we had kind of gone through in a couple of days and in the, you know, just feeling, you know, nervous, afraid, unworthy, excited, anticipate, like all this stuff. And to get that swell of like going on stage together and the whole place is on their feet.
Yeah.
For me, it was like, oh, okay, I can play 3 songs now. And it was largely due to Drew Barrymore. Her induction, her speech was, you know, she did a really good job of making everybody, and I hope they keep it all in the TV version, because she did a great job, I think, of, without explicitly saying this, but she kind of told everybody why we mattered, even though we might not have had as many hits as some people or as many sales as other people. she made it really clear as to we had a huge effect, not only on her life, but a lot of people's lives.
Yeah.
So you can't really equate sales and hits to the reason a band
Right.
has influence.
That's the argument that people would make. Why is the Velvet Underground in there?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. So I felt like she did that so well that she, when we went out on stage, the whole arena, a sold out arena, was on its feet. And to have that right when you really need it, that swell of confidence and like, yeah, this is going to be good. And I know that we all felt it.
Right.
You know? So that was nice. And then there's a photograph. Well, this happened, and it is photographed, that at one point after we all did our little speeches, and we just kind of hugged on the stage, and it's just like this. It says the photo that I've seen of it speaks 1,000 words.
Yeah.
And then we looked up and we saw Drew, and we brought her into our little huddle hug. So, yeah, it was really meaningful.
She was like 6
Yeah.
when she. That's
Yeah.
what I was trying to do the math, because I was like, oh, that was like the year before E.T. came out. Mm-hmm. She didn't even have front teeth.
Yeah, and there's photos of her like dressed up like a little Belinda.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You know what I was thinking? Sorry to interrupt. The fact that this that you guys achieved this thing, the most successful all female. You play your instruments and you write your songs, but it hasn't been repeated.
No, I know.
That's fucking
it's
sad.
It's a numbers game, and this is what I keep remembering and trying to put out into the world, that say you have 2,000 bands starting on a given day,
Right.
and 1,975 of them are guys,
Right.
and 25 of them are females.
Right.
The possibility percent of those numbers of
Right.
having the goods, having the charisma, having the talent, having the songwriting chops, having the longevity, having the stick to it is teeny.
Yeah.
So if your little pool of bands that are women is small, there might not be one in that pool of women that has, the elements to make it into a Green Day or a Foo Fighters
Right.
or a, Imagine Dragons, or I'm just trying to think of bands. It's hard to even think of bands these days. And so there are so many women musicians, and I always talk about this in interviews too. You can go on YouTube and just type in females that shred.
Yeah.
And you will see hundreds of girls sitting in their bedrooms just like shredding away on the guitar or on the drums. You'll see them on Instagram. And I'm like, well, that's great. Go start a band.
Yeah. Yeah.
But bands are a pain in the ass, as you know.
Yeah. Yeah. So you guys have lasted 40 years despite all of the things, and through watching the documentary and through reading your book, there's a couple of things, like there were these weird, like the publishing issue in the Go-Go's seems to be like somebody that got cancer and it keeps going into remission, but then every once in a while they're like, fuck, it came, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
it has that feeling to it.
The issue became the sixth member.
Yeah, yeah.
Or it became like a cancer that went into remission, and we could still have a lot of good times and work and function, but every now and then it's just like, oh fuck, it's back.
Yeah. Anybody that's listened to this that's been in a marriage or something, there is like a thing that is almost like a deal breaker, but they keep coming up and you keep pushing
Trying to
them down
deal
and
with
like,
it,
well, you know what?
Yeah. Gina has a book out called Made in Hollywood, and it's a book of photographs, archival stuff, and essays, either by her or by people. I wrote the foreword, and she's been doing tons of press for her book. It's cool to see her get all this attention, and you know, she has a lot of advantages. Like, her book is more about the Go-Go's. It's not
Right.
the bass player with a memoir. Her
Right.
book came on the heels of Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and I love seeing that, but she is not shying away from that. Has been a thorn in her side for many years, and she's talking about it freely and openly, which I think is the next best thing to having it not be an issue. You know, if you get to air your gripes in public, it's, you know,
she
kind of a good
also,
thing.
in some ways, you know, had the last laugh in her situation where she did end up writing songs.
Yeah,
for
she
other
ended
people.
up like writing songs for like Miley Cyrus and Selena Gomez.
Right.
Yeah. So, and you know, not every song I write is a go-go song.
Right,
You know,
right. I when we get into the book, I've got so much to talk about that soundtrack because.
Oh, thanks.
Okay, before we get into it, let me just say, you did that by yourself, the soundtrack?
Yeah, I had there was 2 outside players I used, and one was on a country tinged song. Then I got Denny Freeman to play
the Merle song,
Lap Steel.
Yeah. Okay, I was wondering who did that.
And then one, I was always a fan of Nick Curran, and he passed away at 35. And one time he did a session at my house, and to my knowledge, it never came out. But I had this whole song with
Queen
him
Bees?
like playing guitar.
Oh.
So first of all, I contacted his mother and said, would it be okay if I used, and I went through it and just kind of grabbed pieces and put it in the song, in Queen Bees. Yeah, just because I don't know, I just wanted to kind of give him a chance to play on, like if he'd been alive.
That's awesome.
Maybe I would have been able to invite him over to play.
Yeah.
But since he wasn't, but mostly I did it myself. I like working by myself.
Well, there's like sonically, it's different than anything you've ever. There's never drum machine stuff going on, and like, you know, kind of like even like some little funky jams and stuff that you were doing.
Yeah, it was a blast to make. I mean, talk about like just having no boundaries and no rules and no committee and nothing. Like even if you're doing a solo record, you want it to sound like songs.
Yeah,
you know, with choruses and bridges.
Yeah, you can't not.
Yeah,
you know.
But if it's a soundtrack, it doesn't even really have to fit any format. It could just be, I could have just made a beat and recited, you know, poetry from prose from the book. I could do whatever I wanted, you know.
Yeah, there's some spoken word stuff on there, and it's really
so
cool.
that was a blast. It was really creative and freeing, and I enjoyed it so much and was impressed myself a lot, like just with some of the bass. I've always been disparaging of my bass playing. I've always said, you know, I'm the perfect bass player in the Go-Go's. I do a great job with that, but I don't know if I could be anybody else's bass player.
Right.
But there was some bass stuff on this soundtrack that I was like, whoa, that's really good.
Yeah.
And even like keyboards, you know, that I can't play keyboards, but, you know, with the magic of Pro Tools, you figure out the chord, play the chord, record it.
Yeah.
Find the next chord, play it, record it. And then it sounds like you're just going dun 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 dun. Yeah.
There's a feeling of that in it. Like that's a palpable sort of like
I'm having fun.
Yeah. Now, lyrically, every once in a while you get kicked in the nuts. You know? I mean, there was I just started writing down these songs when I was listening to it today. Just do it. Like, I mean,
yeah,
it's hard to listen to.
Yeah, everyone tells me that when they hear that song, and I've had people say they had to turn it off.
It's uncomfortable, especially when you know and care about the person saying that, you know, and just and
I sound so young when I'm singing it. It's almost like I'm channeling like 14-year-old me.
The helplessness.
I don't sound like a grown woman.
No.
Yeah.
No.
It was crazy. And when I wrote that one and was doing it, it kind of opened it was a conduit to grieving, which I'd never done. Even writing about it in the book didn't open that channel to grieve. It was just like, write about this and it happened and write about what it was like. But it didn't make me grieve, but the music did. It's like there's something I think music can tap into feelings, you know. I tried to do it with my writing, and I did a lot of the places in the book, but in that particular instance, it was that melody. And the first thing I did when I started it was the chorus, and I just played those, and they sounded like that kind of 50s, like chord progression and girl group kind of thing. Yeah.
That's
I cried
even
for 3
scarier.
days. 3 days. I cried. After I couldn't even finish it. I just kept crying. I would pick up the guitar and go, and I would just start crying. But and when we did the audio book,
yeah.
I wasn't doing the songs, but when I did that chapter, everybody that was involved in the recording of the audio book started crying.
That's a tough one, man.
Yeah.
Your my aunt got your book when it came out, and like was just someone that isn't connected to the Go-Go's in any way. She saw us play once. She met you once, and she thinks the band's cool, but there's no like thing. What her experience with your book as it like an outsider was just like, what a courageous like human being this is. Like on all, it's kind of choked me up because as your so weird, sorry, as your friend and knowing you, and then going back and seeing that and seeing who you are and what you were able to overcome and become is just really moving.
Thank you.
It really is. And I love you very much. And I think that anybody that reads that book walks away loving you very much.
Wow, that's nice to really hear. I just did a book club the other night. Because you can't do a lot to promote your book when it's been out a year and a half. Right. So I kind of do whatever I can just to kind of keep whatever little buzz going. And I did a book club, and a lot of the women were saying things like that and were emotionally moved. And that's like all you really want when you're creating something, is to connect with someone and have them, relate to it and either be inspired or feel like they get a little strength from it, or relate to their own having to overcome stuff. And it's so, it's just incredibly rewarding to have succeeded in that.
Right.
And that's why I'm grateful to UT Press, because I believe any other publisher would have come back saying, no, we want the dirt. We want to know more about the sex and the drugs of the Go-Go's and spill the dirt, And I was really happy with my publisher because they were more interested in the story that I wanted to write. And that was what I wanted to write. I wanted to process, everything.
Right. And what's interesting is in a sea of, because there is even on my Kindle, like my audiobook subscription is just like the Paul Stanley book, the Steve Gorman book, this guy's book, your book. Yours stands out above it on two levels. The material and sort of like where you went personally. And then also just you are such an amazing writer. Like,
thank you.
Yeah, that was another one of those. When I was reading, I was like, Jesus, I'd go back and like start like double checking emails I sent you before. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I've had people say like, well, who was the ghostwriter? I'm like, nobody. But there's parts that I, even now, like I would do a little differently that I thought, oh, that's a little cliche or that's a little much. That's a little over the top. But I'm really proud of it.
Yeah.
Really proud of it. And it was a strategy too. I don't mean to, again, I use the word disparage. I'm not disparaging myself, but I'm very practical. I don't have a problem seeing things as they are. And I knew that I am not the big star of the band. I'm not a big star of any band. I'm not a big star, period. I mean, if I could go on anywhere, it's any like big event with like 10,000 paparazzis and not one of them would say, Kathy Valentine, this way, over here.
Yeah.
And it's okay with me. I don't want to be a big star, but that means if you're writing a memoir, that your writing better be freaking good.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the best memoirs, they're not big stars. They're not the lead singer of the band. Not everybody, can be that. So if you're going to write a memoir, if you're not like one of these exalted celebrities that people just want a little tiny window into anything about you, then so for me, I knew it had to be well done. It had to be written well.
Yeah.
And it had to be relatable on a human level.
Yeah.
Because really, who gives a fuck about the bass player?
Right.
Really.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah, that was what my aunt connected with, like a person's human story, and you just happened to get this really cool ass job.
Yeah.
In the middle of it.
And I think a lot of Go-Go's fans who are not, most Go-Go's fans are not Kathy Valentine fans, and that's cool with me too, you know, and the ones that were excited about my book. I mean, the most gripes I got were from Go-Go's fans. Like,
there's not enough
why didn't
Go-Go
you
stuff.
talk about this? And
Yeah,
why didn't you talk
yeah,
about
yeah,
that?
yeah.
I'm like, because it's my story. I'm not
Right.
writing the history of the Go-Go's.
Right. So wait, back to the music. There was another thing that I wanted to say, because there's these songs obviously are so personal. We talk about Just Do It, and there's others. There's the it's the one I've got, the Camouflage, about that horrible
The robbery. Yeah.
Charlie was there, and
Carlene
Carter.
Carter. Yeah. Yeah, I love that song. That one.
Me too.
Yeah, I love the chord progression. It gets a little dramatic when I'm doing the actual invasion part, but you know.
I mean, when the context of the book, it's, you know, I mean, that was a harrowing.
But I'm doing like the voices, like.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Did you ever second guess that while you were doing it? Like,
No,
what am I
no,
doing?
not till afterwards.
Okay.
I was like, maybe that one's a little over the top. But the music's so good.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, but what I was thinking is, like, you know, we go through, we write personal songs, and there's metaphors, and there are things that take it so that it's not as, like, the focus isn't directly on us, just kind of like on this situation.
Yeah.
Because it's difficult to reveal all this stuff. But I remember when a while back, like 6 or 7 years ago, when I did that thing at Strange Brew, it's not here anymore, but you came and did a solo show. I remember afterwards you're like, I'm never doing one again. And I was like, that was your first one to play like that. But you played this, the Hanging in My Closet song, which you had played for me before on a recording that you did.
Yeah.
But like, that was the first song of yours I ever heard that I was just like this is extremely real.
Yeah, this is, I've been doing some speaking things lately, and you know, I just try to find, I'm still like kind of honing the messages that I can bring to an audience, but I really enjoy doing it. And one thing I was telling a group that I spoke with last month was that like how songwriting is such a form of therapy for me. And I was saying, like, while I was going through my breakup and divorce, I knew that I had to like be okay for Audrey, for my daughter. And so when she was like 7 years old, and I'm like just devastated, but if I had to be okay in front of her. So as soon as she went to bed, I would go in my closet and fall apart. And then I would write a song about going in my closet and falling apart. So yeah, I mean, I have songs that will probably never hear the light of day, or, you know, but.
Well, that's another song that you catch yourself singing it, but then you're like, think of the words, and you're like, oh God, this is really
But it's kind of still an optimist. It's like saying, I'm in my closet falling apart, but
Yeah.
I'm okay. I'm not going to kill myself.
Right.
I mean, because there's like, and it's all true. There was like bullets that I'd hidden in a boot, because my dad gave me a gun, and I put the bullets in a boot, so just so they would never be close to the gun. I've never shot the gun or know anything about even how to put a bullet in a gun, but for some reason I had both items. And so that's a line in the song, you know, the gun.
Right.
Yes, I forget what it is. Yeah, so it's all true.
Well, I mean, imagine it's been 7 years since I've heard it, and it's still like, you know what I mean? Like, impacted me in some way.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's cool. I like that. Yeah, writing songs has been like such an aid, such a tool, you know, and sometimes I pick up the guitar and I'm sobbing, and I'm like, and I got the notebook and I got the guitar, and it's like, oh, that's kind of good. And it's like all of a sudden you're like, you've shifted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you been writing like since that? I mean, like what, like
Lately, not enough. I got into a thing. I was, with recording, you don't use it, you lose it. So if I go too long without using my Pro Tools software, I start like forgetting how to do this, and I have to like spend all this time looking shit up, which takes you out of the creativity. So I try to just kind of keep my chops up. So I decided to do a cover of Beneath the Blue Sky, which is a song I wrote with the Go-Go's, with Jane, that I just thought, I mean, to me, songs are like little properties, and sometimes they're fixer-uppers, and sometimes they need remodeling, and sometimes they need a better foundation or a new roof. And so to me, any song that has my name on it is property that I get to do anything I want to with it. Right. So I rewrote some lyrics and added some lyrics and did that. And then I liked it. I was like, oh, this is kind of cool getting to do a song without the committee, which is what the band is. The band is the committee shooting down your ideas. And, and you're just like, well, it's a good idea, fuck you. But then you want to be in a band, so you just go, okay, we'll do it your way. And so after that, I had the idea to do We Don't Get Along as a duet. And I did that song. So
with Rhett Miller.
So, and that was really fun. And there's a couple others I would like to do, Go-Go songs, but I would like to write something original too. And here's my idea. Since I had so much fun doing the soundtrack to the memoir, my big dream is for my next book to be a collection of literary fiction short stories with a soundtrack that accompanies each one.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So, and then I would like to do a sequel to the memoir, but I just don't want that to be the next book, because then it's like, oh, there's that Kathy Valentine just writing about
memoir
her life
too.
Again. Yeah, this memoir. So it would be cool to do that, and a big challenge, a big goal, and I think the soundtrack would just be fun. I liked it.
Yeah. Was the soundtrack to your book is the only one really like that, right?
Looked up, people have told me that other people have done it, musicians, but when I've checked it out, it seemed like they just released a record at the same time.
Right.
Like I don't know that anyone has done it.
Because
a sound like where they actually start from scratch with a finished book, using the book as the source material.
Right.
I don't know of anyone that's done it. I thought it was genius, and I thought it would get a lot more like attention for it. But the way things are now, that you're lucky to get attention at all for anything, much less asking for people to give you 2 things of attention.
Right. Yeah. You know
what I mean?
That. Yeah. This weird attention era we live in.
Yeah, like there's just it's hard rising above everybody. Everybody has something to get out there.
Yeah,
competing for eyes and ears.
Did you? Because so many people had so many. Didn't even Howard Stern fell in love with your book? Yes,
and I still get like people contacting me saying, Howard talked about your book again today. Now I'm just that girl from the Go-Go's, or like he doesn't put my name to it anymore, but he still talks about it.
There was something that I saw during COVID when I would do like some YouTube, just like rabbit holes. It might have been one time when we were going to get together that I just started watching like everything I could find that I might have never seen. And there was like Jane and Belinda.
Oh, on his show?
When he's offering
about
Belinda $10,000
to have sex.
And then
that was like really awkward to watch. I just saw that recently too, and I was like,
her body language, like when he starts bringing it up, it's like, stop talking about, like, stop doing that.
No, I don't know why. See, I would never go.
I don't blame you.
We were always invited.
Yeah.
And I never wanted to go, but I think he's really grown up a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Changed a lot.
Yeah.
But that would have been, I wouldn't have been as good natured about it as they were, and yet they were good natured about it, but at the same time they weren't it wasn't that funny. None of it was funny.
No, it wasn't funny, and it was a screaming example of women in this business.
Yeah, like we're on this huge radio
You
show.
didn't say
I
that to
guess this
Richard
is-
Marx. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Offer Richard Marx $10,000 to have sex with you. You know what I mean? It's just
Yeah.
kind of like, what?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah.
awkward. It was, and it's mainly it's just not funny or entertaining.
No.
Like who could be entertained by that? Because it went on and on and on and on.
yeah. Yeah,
Like,
I didn't even watch the
if
whole
it went.
thing.
Yeah, I got tired
yeah,
of it.
Yeah, that's funny. I remember back then when that show was on E, and I remember watching it with my ex-wife Tracy, and just like after a little while, like it's just I can't do it anymore. It's
Yeah.
just one joke or one
Yeah.
thing, one sentiment. So, but when all these people were coming, like when your book came out and you started getting all this feedback, I mean, did it just blow your mind? I mean, because you really went out on a limb, like, you know, I mean, all the stuff about your mom in the book and all of, you know, the honesty about the Go-Go's and all. I mean, there's a lot of
Parts of it, like when I was writing it, I was focused on only two things: that I was writing well, you know, that it was the best I could do. And sometimes when I would go back and read something, I would say like, well, this is good writing, but it's not memoir. It's not deep enough. It's not pulling feelings out of me
Yeah.
and putting on the page enough. And I would redo it, trying to just dig deeper and harder. So I was focused on whether it was the best writing, and I was focused on making sure I did enough that I would finish, you know, that I
Yeah.
didn't just, and that's all I thought about. I never really worried about it being in the world and people reading it. And by the time I did think about that, it was too late.
Yeah.
Like when it
Yeah,
came,
yeah,
when
yeah,
it was
yeah.
coming out, I was like, oh shit, you know, and I started feeling a little cringy and weird.
Yeah.
You know, just, and worried like, oh, are like antis gonna like just harass me all the time, like anti-abortion people, or,
Yeah.
you know, am I just gonna get harassed, and are people just gonna zero in on the, like, this is salacious parts? So I was really happy when the main thing that people seemed to focus on was the writing.
Right.
That's made me really happy.
Yeah.
And
And just the
I get so much spam now.
I know.
It's insane. So yeah, I was excited. I mean, and I'm also, I like to say this because I have this attitude. I'm just like so always like, I feel like anything could happen. Like, I mean, when I wrote the book, I really thought, why wouldn't it get on the New York Times bestseller list? It didn't. But to me, like, why not? Maybe it could. Maybe I could, you know.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen. But what I like is that I thought it could happen.
Yeah.
Like, that it was possible. Like,
Yeah.
I thought I did a good enough job that it could have landed there.
Yeah.
And that's a cool thing. And that's part of the message I like to put out to people, is that when you do things in the arts, whether it's, you know, a play or a painting or a poem or a song or a record or a book or whatever, you know, like we were just saying, getting people to pay attention may or may not happen.
Yeah.
And the sooner you can get to the place where you're just really proud of it
Yeah.
and happy with what you did,
Yeah.
man, the less frustrated you'll get. Because I know people, and they just live in, that are artists, and they just live in this perpetual state of frustration because they don't get the attention or the notice, i.e. the success. And you could say, oh, that's easy for you, Kathy Valentine.
Right.
You've been successful, but only in the Go-Go's.
Right.
I've never had anybody pay attention to anything I did
Yeah.
outside of the Go-Go's. And I've done every minute of every day since I've been an adult, trying to do something, either being in a band, making records, writing songs. So it was nice for my book to get that.
Yeah.
But
And
anyway, yeah. So you get my point. It's like, it's nice. Like I can sit there and go, I'm really proud of that.
Yeah.
I'm really proud of this.
Do you think that, like, the fact that there was this weird pandemic and everyone was home gave them the chance to really be able to dig into it in that way?
I don't know. I mean, maybe. I don't know. That's all
I wonder about that, just like releasing music during that time and stuff like that. Like, I wonder if people are actually like listening now because they don't have anything. So many people didn't have anything to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if that created more readers or not.
Right.
You know? The book events that I tried to do and the Zoom things and interviews, you know, I think they would have been better in person.
Yeah.
Because I've had the chance to do a couple of appearances, and man, they were so good in person. Like, I'm good at it.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable talking. I make it, I can suit it to the crowd. And it makes me kind of like bummed out. Like, well, I didn't get to do that, you know?
Right. Right. Well, I mean, you probably get to do it again for your short
Next
stories
one.
book. I mean,
I hope so.
Are-
It's motivating.
Yeah.
It's very motivating to like, okay, let's do it again.
How does that work though? Like when you get a book deal, like do you like, okay, well this one did well. Okay, well let's see the short stories or.
Well, UT Press, I don't think would do a literary
Okay.
short story collection. I would probably have to go the route that most writers have to. I was really spoiled and lucky with my book because I had a book deal, and I knew that it was going to get published. That's like, you know, making a record knowing that a label is going to put it out.
Yeah.
It's like, it's okay, let's get to work.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that, you're just like, okay, let's get to work.
Yeah. Yes. Make this album, see what happens.
So I'm in that spot with my writing. I have to like, okay, let's get to work
Yeah.
because I don't have a book deal for that. Now, I'll have what I want to do is submit some stories for creative writing program, MFA, graduate school.
Okay.
Because I graduated in May from St. Edward's.
Oh, congratulations.
I got a degree.
Oh yeah, didn't you have like a couple of.
I had just a couple of credits to go, and when the pandemic happened, I'm like, oh, I might as well get a degree, finish school. So now the best thing about it is that I can apply to MFA programs, and the best thing about that is that you have to write
Yeah.
because you're in school, and they're going to say, turn in a short story or
Right,
turn in
right.
this. And the best thing about that also is that I would have a graduate degree and be employable if I need a job, you know. I'm not set for life. The Go-Go's aren't going to be touring in 8 years. What if I need a job, you know?
I'm sorry. I listened to whenever it was you did the Bob Lefsetz podcast. I love his like, so what percentage does your accountant get? You know, those kind of questions are hilarious.
Did he
But
say that?
No, I remember his Set for Life. There was like a Set for Life era. Like,
Yeah. So, and I don't know, like, you know, how much money it's going to eat up of my nest egg to take care of my mom, you know, I don't know. So I want to make sure. I'm kind of wired, like people that read my book, there's 2 takeaways, and a lot of people are like, oh, your mom, you know, really didn't do a good job. But from my point of view, she might not have done a good job, but one of the results was that I'm wired to feeling like it's my job. It's my job to take care of myself. Right. Mom's not going to do it. Dad's not going to do it. Right. Nobody's going to do it but me. So with that kind of wiring, it's kind of a good way to feel in this world. Like, I'm 62 and I'm thinking like, okay, Go-Go's, you know, we got a one hit song, blah,
Right.
blah, blah. You know, how many times can it be in Spider-Man? Probably not ever again. So how am I going to, you know, so that's the other good thing about getting a graduate degree. I'm employable. And
as far as employable, what would be interesting to you to be a professor?
I would take, what I would do is I would create a syllabus of a class that maybe no one else but me could do. Like, there must be other writers that are musicians. Like, let's do a class about putting soundtracks to your books.
Yeah.
You know? And so you've got somebody that's an ex-Go-Go, and a member of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, who's written 2 books.
Yeah.
And has done a soundtrack to both of them, offering a class at wherever, USC,
Yeah.
NYU. It just seems kind of cool. I could go places and teach for a semester.
Yeah.
And help people.
What are those? Is that adjunct professor? No.
I
What
don't
is-
know.
It's
I haven't gotten that
visiting
far.
professor? Yeah. I just interviewed this really amazing professor from NYU, and I want to say Princeton, but she does stuff in Germany, like at University of Berlin or something like that too. She does all this.
Cool. Yeah, there's people that teach
stuff.
like rock and roll courses. I mean, I wouldn't want to do that, but they have all kinds
Clifford
of...
taught like a blues course, didn't he?
Yeah.
At UT.
So, I mean, you know, there's jobs out there. You just have to tell them why you should do it. And I'm good at that. I'm good at telling people why I should do something.
Yeah. This last year, whatever this experience, like since your book came out, so much has gone down, like in so many people's lives. But in your life, you see all this stuff. Like you put out this book. The Go-Go's did this documentary. I can't remember what the timeline is on everything. You lost one of your best friends, Denny Freeman. Your daughter went off to college, and you got in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I mean, it's like a lot of shit.
Yeah.
Like huge life-changing shit on so many different levels.
Yeah, and I've been noticing, because the induction ceremony was October 31st, and we're getting towards the end of November, and I've been realizing, like, we knew we were going to get into the Hall of Fame. I think May is when they told us that we were in. So all through May, June, July, all through the summer, it's been like this, like, pulsing thing and underneath my life. And so, like, big things like Audrey moving out and going to college, there was this big thing under it. Like,
Yeah.
you know, well, I got to do this too.
Right,
so I'm
right.
moving her out and this
Yeah.
and that. And I come, and then I did like a 3-week vacation just to kind of not come right home. And then I come home and there's that big pulsing energy isn't there. And so I'm finding that I'm having to kind of come to terms with some of that stuff now. And that means, like, it's a struggle. It means that, like, the other night at 10 at night, I was like eating cheesecake in the parking lot at Whole Foods, going like, okay, this is not how you should be dealing. You feel lost. Just like trying to be conscious and self-aware, because that's like, what's the use of being 62 if you haven't learned how to do that at least? So it didn't stop me from eating the cheesecake in the parking lot, but I was doing it consciously, going, maybe next time find some other way.
Yeah.
So you don't have to deal with, like,
Post cheesecake guilt.
yeah.
On top of whatever you're feeling.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
I like, right. Okay.
I do that too. I do it too. I was depressed a few months ago. Made like a huge thing of baked ziti, like just like for a family, and ate it in like 2 days, like just out of the thing too. Like I made one bowl, but then eventually I would just pull out the thing and just eat at the counter.
Yeah, I think Mark Maron is good for like telling people what he's doing, that stuff. It kind of always makes me go, okay, we're all kind of in this boat.
I still feel kind of the shame of it before I start talking about it.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you're like,
That's why shame is terrible. That's why I like to just admit it and say it. Because the more I acknowledge it when it's happening, right before it happens. Because even before it happened, I was saying, you probably shouldn't do this.
yeah,
You know. And the other day, like, I thought, it's just weird how that's my default, you know, like just to like stuff my face. And I was like, it's like, I think I need a croissant right now. And I went, and there was like to that Mozart's place, and there was like a big line. I was like, see, the universe is taking care of you, even when you can't do it. Because I left. Like, I don't want it bad enough to wait in a line, you know?
yeah, you made it.
Yeah, I made it through that crisis.
At the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, sorry to jump to this, but you met Paul McCartney.
I know.
And he said us bass players have to stick together.
He did.
Does he
said
smell
that.
good?
What?
Does he smell good?
I didn't sniff him. No, I didn't sniff. He looks good.
Yeah, he does, doesn't he?
Like, he doesn't have that weird
Right.
cosmetic surgery look.
I was telling my aunt this the other day. I have cousins that are plastic surgeons, and I watched the thing on Hulu with Rick Rubin, and I was like, he has had something done.
He must have, yeah. He looks too good,
But
but he
whoever-
doesn't look weird.
No.
Because I wrote this essay. I was looking through my stuff because I feel like, oh, maybe you should try to get some stuff published. And I wrote this hilarious thing I'd forgotten about aging. And I do this whole thing about cosmetic surgery, and I'm like, you have two choices. You can look old or weird.
Yep.
You know, so do you want to look weird? Do you want to look old? And even if you have good surgery, you're still going to look weird because your hands are going to look old, and your,
Right.
you know, something is going to look
That's
old.
true, yeah,
With
yeah.
your face that
Yeah.
you managed to skate by
Yeah.
on not looking weird.
Yeah.
So it was really funny, but yeah, he looks really good. He looks good, and also, I found myself, because I'm not a very starstruck type person. My goal would be like to be friends and hang out. Like, what's the point of saying, "Oh, I've been a fan since I was 4," or
Right,
whatever?
right.
So what? So everybody.
Yeah.
So when he introduced his wife, and she was a big fan, he said, "I want you to meet my wife. She's a fan of the Go-Go's, and she's my age." And all I wanted to know was like, well, how did you marry Paul McCartney? Like, how did that happen? You know? So, but anyway, no, I wasn't able to transition to friend level in the short meet and greet, like
No.
photo op thing.
But I mean, that's like a Mount Rushmore guy.
Oh yeah.
You know?
No, it was really good.
Yeah.
It was good to meet him, and my impression was that he's very down to earth, that he doesn't want to be gushed over or exalted. He just seemed like, you know, and I said, I tried to engage him a little bit, because since he said the thing about the bassist, I thought, okay, I'll talk about bass. And I was like, oh, didn't you start out on guitar too? You know, I think it
Right.
makes us play a different, and then he kind of, like, I lost him. He's like, oh, I like it all.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then he turned away, and like, fuck, wrong thing. I should have said, I'm friends with Brian Ray, or I should have said, I'm a lefty, or like, you start thinking like all the things you could
Right.
have said just to get that extra human connection.
Did you get to meet some other cool people? You met Questlove?
Questlove, Gina talked to him more than I did. I love Brandy Carlisle, and she
Yeah.
was awesome. Jennifer Hudson was awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Angela Bassett. I'm trying to remember who else.
Did she induct Tina
Oh,
Turner?
LL Cool J. Loved
Oh,
LL
cool.
Cool J.
Yeah.
He was awesome.
That's a funny thing
I
about...
didn't get to meet Jay-Z, but when we were on stage, like, he was right in the front. We were doing our speeches. One thing that was awesome for me is that Jane suggested a couple of weeks before the ceremony, she wrote an email and said, I think Kathy should give the main speech. She's a great writer, and she has experience in speaking. And I was like, oh, wow. And I was like so happy and excited to get to do that. And I think I did a really good job of my speech. And then everybody else kind of just made a very short remark, and we split up the thank yous so that everyone wasn't like, I want to thank my this and
Yeah,
my
yeah,
that
yeah.
and this. So we just did it real, like, organized. Like Gina thanked our families and the musicians without naming a bunch of people
Right.
that had inspired us. And Belinda thanked our managers and tour managers, and Charlotte thanked our record company people. And
Right.
so we had it all organized. But so when I did my bit and I was standing there while someone else, I made like full eye contact with Jay-Z, and I kind of pointed at him like that, and he did that thing.
Oh, yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, like that thing where you're beating on your heart.
Yeah.
And I was like, I like that. That's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
That was the extent. That and Paul and Angela, Brandy, Jennifer. There was this awesome singer who I wasn't aware of named Mickey Guyton. She is a woman of color and a country singer. So she's got a road ahead of her.
Wow.
And she's from Waco.
Wow.
And she was awesome. She did part of the she did the tribute to Tina Turner. She was one of the performers.
Wow.
And we bonded on being from Texas, the Texas gal, contingent. And it was also cool because Gary Clark Jr. was there.
Oh, that's
and
good.
It was really cool to just see a little bit of Austin there. I'm not good friends with Gary, but it was just nice to see him and Mike Weed and just see a little bit of home.
Yeah.
in
Did
that
Gary
setting.
play, or he was just hanging out?
No, he did a tribute to Charlie Patton.
Oh, cool. That's really cool.
I didn't see it. We were backstage for that. They take you back to get you ready and all that.
Yeah.
Oh, and we had a good interaction with Lionel Richie. It was actually hilarious. We were teasing him that we were glad that there was somebody older than us. And then he said, no, we all got to be thankful to Clarence because Clarence Avant got inducted, and because he's like older than all of us. So that was kind of a funny little.
Did you get to see him, Clarence?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I saw that documentary on Netflix. It blew my mind.
I haven't seen it yet. Yeah, Gina had seen it, so she actually talked to him.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what to say because I hadn't seen it.
It was like, shit, this guy's like responsible for almost everything.
Yeah.
Like all kinds of stuff that you wouldn't even think.
Yeah. Watching the speech for him, I was like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny because I've never heard of him. When I saw it, like, it was one of my quarantine, I'll see what this is about, you know.
Yeah, it's on my list of things to watch.
So with the documentary, we didn't really talk much about that. That was a pretty, I thought it was fucking great. Like, those things are also like memoirs. Like, you know, some of them can be hit, some of them can be missed. That one was really great. It seemed like it came out during a time of, like, didn't the Bee Gees one come around around the same time?
Right around the same time,
and the
yeah.
Tina Turner one came out shortly after.
We went to a big thing at Universal that they announced all the stuff that they're going to be releasing. And I remember there was like all these like stars and execs. This was in LA like the year before. And so they show like a little trailer of ours and everybody's like clapping, yay. And then they show the Bee Gees one by that, I forget who made it. Who made the Bee Gees film?
I can't remember.
He's huge.
Yeah.
And I was like, wah, wah, like, you know. But it turned out to be fine. To come out on the heels or right before that.
There was one thing. There's in the denouement of the story. There, I wrote it. Actually, wrote it all down.
I can't believe you just used that word.
Oh, I figured
Impressed.
Literary. You might enjoy some. Me
I've never heard anyone.
Terms.
I've only seen it in print. I don't know anyone that has ever.
I don't think I've used it since 8th grade. So you say this at the end when you're kind of like looking back of all the things and all of the things that kind of broke up the Go-Go's, and it's you, and you say we made Belinda feel guilty for being a star and a diva. We made Jane feel like what she needed wasn't important enough for us to even sit down and talk about. We made Gina feel like what she contributed wasn't enough to make as much money as the rest of us. We couldn't see the pain that Charlotte was walking around in. Well, what about you? What was the thing that they weren't? Because that's what was not happening for you.
Well, that was also right out of my book. That's in my book, too.
Yeah. Okay.
And when I was doing my interview, I had a book coming out in a couple of them, and I was really, and I was like, I don't want to give away my insights. I don't want to give away my sound bites. And I really don't like my interview in the documentary because I'm not comfortable being on camera, number one. I just didn't feel comfortable. And I was really towing like this like, what can I say that's good that isn't giving away my book? But in that case, I crossed over, and that came right out of my book. And in my book, I think what I refer to as what's the big deal with letting me play guitar on an encore or something. But I would go beyond that, since those were a little bit more deep, and just say, you know, to not feel appreciated and valued is really what it's about. And I never felt like anyone valued or appreciated what I brought to the band, you know. That's what I felt like then. So to now it's different, you know. Now it comes out, but at that time, which is what I was talking about, at that time, I didn't feel like anybody saw anything of value than what I brought. Right. And that's the same thing of all that I'm saying about everybody. And that's the biggest thing I learned from being in that band, and maybe any band, is that people just want to be recognized and feel like what they bring to the table is appreciated and valued and recognized. That's what people want. Yeah. That's what everybody wants.
That's what everybody wants.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. When you just said that Jane had said, like, oh, you're a really good writer, you should be the one that makes the main speech. I was like, anyone who read your book or saw the documentary, not just Jane in specific, just the dynamic of the Go-Go's, that someone would actually say that to everyone on behalf of someone else. You guys have
growth.
come a long fucking way. Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's a lot of growth, and these things, these grudges and hurt feelings that they can go back. It's so much like a marriage or a relationship or a family, because you hear somebody says, you said this, and you're like, you're going, I don't think I said that, and if I did it, I certainly didn't mean it the way you took it, and if I did, I didn't mean to. But it doesn't matter that you did or didn't.
Right.
They think you did.
Right.
They think you tried to hurt him. They think you said it on purpose.
Yeah.
And they carry it around, and that's the stuff that needs to get kind of unearthed and uncovered, and give people a pass for things they did when they were 21 or 22 and kind of on this crazy ride. We were all on it together, and we weren't very grown up. Those are the years that a college student is kind of learning, like, okay, if I drink every single night, I might not get a good job when I'm an adult. It's kind of, you have those years in college. Those were our college years,
Yeah.
And so we weren't learning the lessons of that bridge into adulthood. We were just staying very, we didn't know how to be compassionate and empathetic and
No, your
considerate.
egos were being fed at a time when they shouldn't be fed like that without being able to.
Just weren't developed. I mean,
Yeah.
brains aren't even female brains aren't fully developed until the age of 25, and that's science,
Yeah.
So I have to remind myself that, even with having a teenage daughter, like
Yeah.
when she's doing something that drives me crazy, I'm like, how can this be?
Right.
And then I'm like, oh yeah, she doesn't have the same brain. It's not developed yet.
Right. Have people come to you from the book and talked about like having like that your struggles with alcohol and then doing coke so you can drink more alcohol are pretty well documented in there, and just like that's kind of like where the book ends, is your life
sober.
changes and you get sober. Have you gotten a lot of people that either are very recently sober, or like have you people
Yeah.
reached out to you and been like, thank you?
Yeah,
Or-
anytime I write about sobriety, I get responses. And that's one of the reasons I felt confident to write. A couple of things gave me the confidence that I could write a good memoir. One was that I'd taken a lot of creative writing classes, and my teachers were always very complimentary at what I generated. But also, I'm not a big Facebook person, but when I first got on Facebook, every year I would write about my sobriety.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I did it, I would get hundreds and hundreds of responses where I had really touched some place. So those two things gave me courage to write a memoir. And I knew that it was important to write about my sobriety, because that's something, sometimes that's carrying the message. It's like sometimes people just read or hear something right at the right time. When I was drinking, I remember somebody said to me, like, maybe you have a problem, or I think I thought I did, but it kind of just sailed. It wasn't the right time. You know? So
when you knew you had a problem, will you tell that part of your story?
Well, there was the first time I knew I had a problem. I have the letter. I should have put it in my book, but I wrote a letter to my mom, and I just moved to LA. I was 19, and I was writing my mom, and I was saying, I think I'm drinking too much. I think I could have a problem. So I've decided I'm only going to drink, once a week.
Right.
So
And
that
it's
was
gonna
an
be wine,
awareness.
So I don't get crazy. Yeah.
That was an awareness at 19. And yet I didn't quit until I was 30. So when I did stop, I think I'd always had in the back of my mind, I mean, I'm a big, I don't know how it's not a rule maker, but I'd play these, like even when I go to the gym, I'm going to do 20 minutes or 2 miles. And then I get to that. And then I'm like, okay, now I'm going to do another mile. I just
Right.
make these little goalposts.
Right.
And I would do that with my drinking a lot. Like I'm going to this, and then that's going to be okay. And then I'm going to do that. And so but I had kind of a big one, and that if I don't have this under control by the time I'm 30, I need to stop.
Oh.
I just had this, it was this kind of
Right.
a contract with myself. And because I couldn't imagine not drinking, I couldn't imagine having fun. I couldn't imagine what do you do for fun? If
Yeah.
you're not
Yeah,
what
yeah.
do you do when you go hear a band? What do you do
Yeah.
when you go to a club? What do you do when you go to a bar? I couldn't imagine it. That was my life. Not the drinking, but everything I did that went along with it. So that meant that I had to control it. Because if you can't not do it, that means you better get it under control. So I spent many, many years controlling it, which is its own kind of hell. Maybe it isn't the hell of it's certainly not the hell of waking up in jail or having, hurt yourself or hurt somebody or all the awful things that can happen with unchecked alcoholism or addiction. It isn't that kind of hell, but it is a hell to kind of constantly have something that you're trying to manage.
Yeah.
And I just bottomed out on that. I bottomed out on it. And luckily, my life wasn't going very well. And I just had this moment of clarity where I was like, I desperately want something to change. And I'm trying so hard. I can't get a publishing deal. I can't get a band together.
Right.
I can't do this.
Right.
I just felt unhappy. And I just thought, well, if I quit drinking, I just turned 30.
Right.
And there was that thing in the back of my mind. I just thought, that's one thing that'll change. One
Yeah.
thing. And maybe if one thing changes, maybe everything will change. And
Yeah.
it did.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it did.
So now you've been sober longer than not, right?
Yeah, I've been sober,
More than half your life?
33 years, but then
Yeah.
I was not born drinking. So yeah, I probably didn't become an alcoholic till my teenage years. I started drinking at a very early age, and I drank a lot.
Yeah.
But maybe you're not really an alcoholic for a little while.
Yeah.
Maybe you could quit. I don't know. I don't really know how it works. I don't think they know. But at some point, so yeah, it's 33. I'll be 34 years in January.
Wow. Congratulations.
I don't even think about it. I mean, my favorite, this happened to me the other night where, do you want some wine? No, that's okay. I don't drink. And you can always, most people are just like, oh, okay. And they just go on.
Right.
But the ones that start telling you about their drinking, you're just like, why are you telling me this?
I don't normally drink like this. Yeah. Is that what?
No, they just start saying, well, I should probably quit, but blah, 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 blah. Well, and you're just like, and I would just go like, well, you kind of know when
Yeah.
you'll know if you need to quit, you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But those are always the ones that I'm like, okay.
Damn. Go-Go's are going on the road 2022?
Well,
Doing some Billy
on the
Idol
road,
stuff?
it's like little pockets,
Yeah.
show pockets. Like we have 5 shows at the end of this year. And the problem is I'm the youngest and I'm 62. And that doesn't mean that any of us look old or act old or feel old, but it does mean that people are more picky about their life choices.
Sure.
And so, not everybody, like what we were going to do in 2020 and then 2021 that got canceled because of COVID, that's 2 years that people can get further away from giving a shit about wanting to do that.
Right.
So it's been very difficult to kind of like try to get it so that we don't do anything, and then still get to do something. So we have 5 shows at the end of the year, and we have 6 shows in England next summer with Billy Idol.
Awesome.
And that's cool because it's big shows. We never broke in England. We never got to play big places.
Really? It's weird. I'd listened to a bunch of stuff last night and this morning, and the Go-Go's are so unique in the sound. The sound is unique. There's a thing of the time that's happening, the eight beat downstroke, ding, 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 but that was happening everywhere. But the sound of the band, like, when you hear the Go-Go's, even if it's a song you don't know from like Valley of the Go-Go's or whatever.
Yeah, I tried to write that in my book because I remember I wrote a line saying when I first got into the band and was listening to their rehearsal tape and learning the songs, what I wrote was like, they didn't sound like any other band.
Right.
And I think my editor said, why? What was it about them that didn't sound like any other band? So that's an example of having, and so that forced me to like really have to go. And what I came up with, and it's so true, is like the blend, like the band blended like surf, punk, pop, rock, in a way that nobody else really does. And what I think what I'm most proud of the band is the material, because it transcends. It doesn't sound like, I'm not a 80s fan. People come up all the 80s, I don't like that stuff, most of it. I don't listen to it, and a lot of it sounds really dated to me. And I don't think the Go-Go's sound dated. I think it sounds really good, and it's not just the songwriters. We have great songs from the songwriters, but we also, it's Belinda's voice. It's what I play. It's what Gina plays. It's the guitar hooks. So what we made as a collective is really, I'm proud of it. It doesn't need a lot of production value. It doesn't need singers. It doesn't need pyrotechnics. It doesn't need, we get the cheapest backdrop that you can rent a backdrop when we play a show. We get the cheapest thing we can find. And I even say, like, to Belinda, like, go change clothes or something, just so we can do something. But all we do is go up there and play those songs. And it's enough. Because they're good.
And the band is so good. You know what I mean? From what I saw on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame thing, from the side phone thing, you guys sounded great there too.
Yeah, I think it did. It's one of those weird things. If you're in a band, you know what I'm talking about. But like, we did the sound check. Everything sounded great. That was the night before.
Right.
Who knows what's going to happen between the sound check, an entire show, rented gear. So when we go out, like, my bass sound is just awful on stage. And that takes you out of being in the moment, because all I want on stage is to be in the moment. My whole thing about being a musician is being in the moment, where I'm not thinking about anything. I'm just like enjoying playing, being locked in, knowing the material. I'm comfortable. I don't feel like I look bad in my clothes. My feet don't hurt in my shoes. My hair, my sleeve isn't slipping. I don't want anything to take my attention away from enjoying that moment. And if you don't have a good sound, it takes you out. So I was having the best moment, except for the sound of the bass. And what's running through my mind is like, fuck, it sounds bad. I go over, try to adjust the treble. It still sounds bad. And then the next thing I'm thinking is like, Paul McCartney probably thinks that I don't know what a good bass sound is. Like, I want to say, like, I know it's not good, it's not like I think it's good.
Right.
And I know it's not good. But then, as happens so much of the time, is that I heard what was out front. And what's going to be on TV, and it's great. It's great. So I'm reminded once again that what you think is happening on stage isn't what's happening. And it's a drag that I let that take me out of the moment a bit, because it was fine out front. But if you don't like what you're hearing, it sucks. And Jane didn't like her guitar sound either.
Oh, she didn't?
That's what we were complaining about when we went off stage. I was like, my bass sound sucked. She goes, my guitar sound sucked. And we're like, fuck, biggest show of our lives, and our tone was bad. And it wasn't.
No, it's
But on
great.
stage it was.
Yeah, sorry about that. That sucked. That does suck. That does take you out of it. You guys wrote that song. I'm drawing a blank. But
Club Zero?
Club Zero. $0 given is what I was going to say. Club Zero. Is there more writing and recording for you guys as a group?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I've always I'm never surprised if something comes up and happens, you know.
Right.
And I think it was actually me who suggested that we do something for the documentary, and the producers I think wanted it really bad, but it was really hard. It was hard to write that way, and we have very different tastes now, you know.
Yeah.
Like I don't agree with everyone else on what they like, and they don't agree with what I like.
Right.
So it's to get that song was kind of a miracle, and to have to go through that process for an entire album.
Yeah, it would be
you know,
crazy.
we just don't like the same stuff. We don't agree. We all agree on what goes in the set.
Right.
We all agree on what we still like to play, but in terms of writing something new, like, I mean, I turned in a song that I thought was great, and then immediately, you know, I was getting comments like, oh, what if it went like this? And I'm like, you just ruined it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean that they did or that they're right or you're right. It just means you don't agree on music.
Right.
And it's like, I don't like Billy Joel, you know, so what? It's like,
All of Billy Joel or just like 80s Billy Joel?
Audrey likes a song that I like called, she's the one that made me, this is my daughter, that made me realize that I didn't have to not like everything.
Yeah.
She likes a song called Vienna.
Oh,
And I
great
was-
song.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
But until
Vienna
that
waits
song,
for
I
you.
thought I didn't like anything. But anyway, but the cool thing about music, and I've noticed this, is that like if you get a haircut or a new outfit and somebody goes, I don't like it, it hurts your feelings.
Yeah, it does.
You know, it feels bad. But if somebody doesn't like the music you like, you don't care.
No.
You're like, you're stupid. You
Yeah.
know, what are you, crazy?
Yeah, yeah. You're
So
nuts.
it's like, it's kind of cool. Like if you like your music, you know, I have a friend that loves Barry Manilow, and she doesn't care. This is, hi, Wendy. She doesn't care whether everyone else thinks Barry Manilow is lame. She thinks Barry Manilow is great and doesn't affect her at all. And that's how everyone is.
Yeah.
You know?
You have two friends that love Barry Manilow.
Do you love Barry Manilow?
Yeah.
No way.
How would I not?
Copacabana?
I mean, not that so much that song, but
Mandy?
like some other cheesy. Yeah, I like Mandy. What about you and your? You got to go, but you got you did some Bluebonnet shows over the last few months. I saw a couple of them.
We did a couple, and then I got really busy, and COVID, Delta came raging back,
Yeah.
and people were getting sick in Austin at clubs.
I got it.
Did you?
I got it after I got vaccinated. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and mainly I was just busy. And, you know, I love the Bluebonnets. I really do. But here's the thing. I wrote this book, and for the first time, I started realizing that my entire adult and career life, I've put all my effort and energy into pushing entities along down the road. And I just started wondering, what would it be like to use my energy and effort to push Kathy Valentine down the road
Yeah.
and be me?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I want to do. I'm 62, and I don't, you know, I'm into it. I'm into just being me now. That doesn't mean I want to be a solo artist. I
Right.
really don't want to be a solo artist. But I like going out and speaking and writing a book or playing a couple songs and being, I don't know, doing whatever I can that's just me. But I love the Bluebonnets, and we have some shows in January. We're going to open
Cool.
a couple of shows for the Archangels.
Oh, awesome!
So
I
that'll be
saw
cool.
that was coming up. The Archangels.
Yeah, I
I'm
think
glad
we
you're
get
doing
to
that.
do Houston and Dallas.
Fantastic.
So that'll be fun. And then Christy, who plays drums with us from LA, she's coming out and actually looking at houses. So we might
Oh, cool.
have her out.
I like
we
her.
have great drummers in Austin we enjoy playing with too, but it's always like having to find
Right,
them, relearn the set
Right.
and all that. So I do love the Bluebonnets, and I love playing with Eve and Dominique, but I think that it can't ever be the priority. I want
Right.
to put my
Yeah, you should.
considerable energy. I mean, when I decide to get something done, it gets done.
Yeah.
and I like getting things done for me.
Yeah. That's a good place to leave it. All I Ever Wanted, A Rock and Roll Memoir is the name of your book. The Go-Go's documentary is available like where people can, if you don't have Showtime, I rented it on Amazon. I actually got Showtime for like 2 months when it came out.
That's what I did. Yeah.
And, of course, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is going to be on HBO, and if you have the HBO things, you can go watch it. Yeah. I've watched the other ones after they come out. But congratulations on everything.
Thanks.
And
it was great.
It's great hanging out.
Yeah, always.
When we were higher and our lives went, we always
Kathy Valentine from the Go-Go's, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee. What a great thing to be able to say. Get her book, All I Ever Wanted, A Rock and Roll Memoir, available also on audiobook. Go to KathyValentine.com for all of your Kathy Valentine needs. Get out and see the Go-Go's if you can on tour. They're still an amazing band. Check out their Rock and Roll Hall of Fame performance and induction. Watch the show, the 2021 Rock and Roll on HBO Max. Yeah, you can check it out. Anyway, great catching up with Kathy. I love her so much. Sorry I got emotional in there. That was a little weird, but that happens. All right, let's go back and listen to some more music from Kathy's book, All I Ever Wanted. Get out there and check it out. And don't forget, gang, when you're out there checking out Kathy Valentine's book or KathyValentine.com or thegogos.com, don't forget that you can subscribe to this podcast wherever it is that you find podcasts, be it Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, Overcast, Stitcher, anywhere, new shows all the time. I'll have a show Wednesday featuring one of my favorite producer engineers, Angel M, and also Patricia Vaughn. All right? I hope you guys have a great Thanksgiving week. Whatever it is you're doing, enjoy the music of Kathy Valentine. Let's get down.
Shifted and overturned, and now I'm leaving one life.
Invariably, there would be a blowout where I'd stay up drinking, doing coke, reveling in the excess. I'd be up for anything once I was drunk. Sex, drugs, rock and roll, hanging out at any club, anywhere, anytime, with almost anyone. Waking up in a hungover hellhole, specters of shame slinking through the fog in my brain. But yeah, going for it. All-nighters, getting up close and personal, making connections. How bad could I be if I was so much fun? I kept the party dialed up, reckless and rocking, laughing and talking, a comic entertainer, then suddenly I might be in reckless danger. My whole 20s had been like a wind tunnel, flying high or uncontrollably blown around, a tempest with no direction or conscience where it might let go. If I can't get my shit together, I could get dumped in a garbage pile.